Well, hello and welcome to Hardy Party of 5.5.
Welcome.
Rebecca, I have a little friend with me today.
Who is that?
This is Jim Sundberg.
It's a bobblehead.
It's a bobblehead. It's not actually Jim yet. But
it's going to turn into Jim?
Well, no, we're about to talk to Jim.
Oh, okay.
So we've had this in our house for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to present it today.
That's right.
As an offering to Jim.
He probably has 100,000 of it.
Yeah, and to get his reaction on how well they did here with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he was number 10 for the Rangers from like 74 to 89,
Mm-hmm.
with a little stop in Kansas City to win a World Series.
I mean, who would
which
stop
we forgive
to win the
him.
World Series?
Yeah, we forgive him for that. But he did come back to Texas.
Right. I wish the Rangers would stop and win the World Series.
One day, Rebecca, maybe in our lifetime.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We like most sports, but we really like baseball.
Yeah, we're baseball fans. We're Ranger fans.
Right. So what's a sport you really don't like?
I think golf is probably the one. I liked it. I got into it in high school and college. I used to play with buddies. That was kind of our thing to do.
Yeah.
But I realized in the midst of that I'm not very good at this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to spend the time or the money. We would go to little, like, a lot of the times 9-hole golf courses, like cheaper golf courses.
Yeah.
But if you really want to get good and serious, you have to put a lot of time in it. You have to get the right equipment. You have to go to the nice golf courses, and you have to dress better. You have to wear a collar.
You're just making me angry.
Yeah.
I don't care for golf. I don't mind like watching golf when it gets like to maybe some important part of like the however long they're what did he call them, matches? What do you call them? They're not matches.
Well, tournaments?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A tournament. So when you're
That's how much we know about golf.
Yeah. When you're watching that, like at the very end, I'm like, okay, I'll watch the very end. But honestly, that's the thing. It has a dress code. You can't walk on a golf course in a t-shirt. And I don't know. I'm just, I can't, I'm not good at it either. Like you said, it's expensive. And I realized I didn't want to invest anymore in it when I just really honestly stink at putt. So I knew there was no hope for me on my short game. So I might as well just like.
We enjoy Top Golf now. Because you can just hit it as hard as you want and you're eating donuts filled with chocolate.
That's what I enjoy about Top Golf, because I stink at the ball hitting part. You know what they need? A Top Golf with slow pitch softballs. But they'd have to come out of the air.
So we need a top soft for softball.
Top soft?
Yeah, instead of top
golf.
You
can also have baseball too. It'd be top ball.
Top ball.
Yeah. But think about, where would they have the pitching machine come from?
I don't know.
Unless it was coming really fast or off.
Or if it could pop up from the bottom. It could pop
up
my
gosh. We could do
They
that.
have kid toys that do that. Yeah. But you could do it on a bigger professional scale. And
what gets a little tricky about this is
when you foul it off or miss it.
Foul it off.
Yeah.
So, somebody's gonna get hurt.
There's gonna have to be a gutter system that clears the balls.
I won't be sitting there near as relaxing in my chocolate filled donut holes. I can promise you that. I'll be on my guard. Everybody they've got face masks, or everybody sit back there. But this is a good idea though. It's a fun idea.
We're gonna have to work on that.
I like it.
So we've segued a little bit.
I know,
get
that's
refocused
right.
here.
Okay, sorry. All right. We're back to our interview today.
Right. Well, what we were thinking, being Ranger fans and baseball fans, and we wanted to do something with the Rangers because it's their 50th anniversary of being in Texas. So one of the first people we reached out to was the great Jim Sundberg, because if you look at his career, he started in 74. He was with the team as a player and as a broadcaster, and then he was in the executive team when they went to the World Series. So from 74 to 2014, Jim Sundberg's been associated with this team in one way or the other.
That's right.
So we're like, who best to talk about the Rangers than a person that's lived through the history of the Rangers?
That's right. He's like the quintessential Texas Ranger.
He really is. And he's the nicest guy you'll ever meet.
He really is. Super nice.
Oh, yes. It was like talking to a good friend.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
So we hope you enjoy this interview with Jim Sundberg as much as we did. Mr. Jim Sundberg, we thank you so much for joining us on Hardy Party of 5.5. I know Scott's fanning out a little bit.
I am one of my favorites.
Yep. And so we'll get right to asking you all the questions everybody wants to know.
Okay, I have one question that I haven't told you yet. I'm wondering, who is this guy?
He's a little punchy and overweight and a little older.
Yeah, why did they make you so heavy set?
I don't know. I don't know why they did that. I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Your hair's dark.
No idea.
So
my hair's dark.
Your hair's dark.
Yeah. That's funny.
You know you've made it when you're a bobblehead, though. You know.
Yeah. I know it. It was fun. All the kids, all my grandkids have them. I actually had another bobblehead done years ago, and I'm looking at it now. It's in a squat with a catcher's mask and gear and glove, and the glove breaks off easy. So all the bobbleheads that my grandkids have a broken hand.
Broken hand.
Well, I noticed on those the hands come off and the bats come off. If they're holding a bat, the bats get broken all the time too.
Yeah. Good to be with you all. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We appreciate it. Okay, your career, when you really look at it, your career spans pretty much the Rangers' history. Because they came to Texas in 72, you became the catcher in 74. So, and then you were on the executive team all the way to like 2014, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it's pretty much the whole history of the Rangers. So I want to start out by just asking you, okay, you signed with the Rangers. What's it like taking your family to Texas? You had a really young family then.
Yeah.
And weren't you named the starting catcher just to begin the season?
Well, Billy Martin had intended to make me the starting catcher, and I didn't catch the very first game. I actually caught the second game, which Ferguson Jenkins threw. But in bringing the family to Texas, I thought, well, there's going to be tumbleweeds and it's going to be flat. I had no idea that East Texas would be pine country and that there was a hill country and that it really has a lot of everything. But it was a dream come true being given the opportunity to play big league baseball, something that I remember wanting to do since I was probably about 5. I think I started thinking about that when I was 5 years of age. And so coming to Texas with my wife and young baby was an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
So what's Billy Martin like? I'm always curious. When you see him on TV, he's fiery and he seems like he hates the world. I think he's so competitive that just comes out. So what is he like as a person?
Well, he was tough. He was pretty rough. He liked to fight. We were in the year and a half that he was manager when I was with the Rangers, that we were in a lot of fights on the field. I mean, we were in 10-cent beer night back in 74. So there was he was an angry guy, and we played well for him that first year. But in the second year, things kind of turned south, and he started acting up really weird, and he'd come to the ballpark under the influence and and in a uniform during the game, and so it was got kind of out of control, and they let him go.
Yeah, interesting.
He's like a brilliant baseball mind, but he just had a lot of things he needed to figure out, it sounds like.
Yeah, he was brilliant. He actually did really well. Every place he went to, there was this early success, and then things would start to go south. And but but at one time I would have done anything for him that first year, and then things really kind of turned and went wrong.
So in 1977, you caught Bert Blyleven's no-hitter. Like, talk us through the process of calling such a special game. What's that like? So much pressure, I would think.
Well, Bert actually had been on the disabled list and came off to pitch that game, and he, without knowing about it until after the game, he actually re-injured his groin in the 7th inning.
Oh, wow.
And would go on the disabled list after the game, and then be traded after the season was over with. And so he would throw a no-hitter and then never be in a Ranger uniform again. But
oh my gosh.
Wow.
In those his curveball was so good that all we threw really the last 3 innings were curveballs. I mean, they knew it was coming. Here it comes, get ready. And they just couldn't hit it. They couldn't get it in the air.
Yeah.
Left-handed hitters, we would bunch the infield to pull because we figured if anything, they're going to pull the ball, but they're not going to get it up into the air at all because it had a hard bite to it. And sure enough, that was the case. And it was exciting. You sit there and it can be difficult. I've had a number of pitchers with no hitters late in the game in the 9th inning, and guys that throw 3 different pitches, a little more difficult. But at that stage with Bert, we were just throwing curveballs, one after another.
Yeah. Wow. So what about you? Like, do you feel the pressure back there? Or is kind of everybody getting intense, or does everybody try to play it cool? You're trying to just keep him calm and.
Well, everybody plays it cool. No one says anything. Hey, you got a no-hitter going, Bert.
Nobody says it.
Comes in the dugout. It's like silence, and so you just kind of stay cool. And I'm trying to remember. I think that was the first close no-hitter. No, actually, in my first major league game, Ferguson Jenkins threw a 1-hitter, but the hit happened in about the 4th or 5th inning. But it was the first late inning no-hitter potential that I had, and it was exciting, exhilarating, and then when it finally happened, everybody goes nuts.
Well, and I'm gonna say something that probably a lot of people say, but I was at the 7th no-hitter. And that's the only no-hitter I've seen in person, and it was crazy. It was awesome. Like, it was just this big release when it finally happened. And there was this really, like, the oldest man I'd ever seen was sitting next to me, and I just hugged him like he was my dad. It was just so exciting to be there. And I can imagine for the players that are in the middle of doing that, it's even better.
Yeah.
To savor that.
Yeah, and the thing is about Nolan is Nolan threw 42 2-hitters or less.
That's crazy.
It's actually crazy. And to have thrown, I was broadcasting at the time he threw his 7th no-hitter. I broadcasted his 6th no-hitter in Oakland, and that's a little different feel from it being in the booth. But I think whenever Nolan was getting his curveball over for strikes, you knew it's going to be rough. It's going to be tough because his fastball was really good, and the saying was, as you faced him as a hitter, if he wasn't throwing his curveball over for a strike, you just wait and try to get a fastball. And but if he was throwing his curveball over, you couldn't do that. You had to try to go after it as well. So anytime he was getting his breaking pitch over, it was lights out.
Yeah.
So is he one of the hardest that you faced as a hitter? Who are some of the hardest pitchers that gave you trouble?
Well, he was. I mean, there were the normal ones. Clemens was, and Jim Palmer, but there was a guy named Mark Parrott, kind of a no-name pitcher who pitched for Seattle for a number of years. That I don't know if I ever hit the ball past pitcher's mound. I don't know if I ever got it past pitcher's mound.
What did he do that just messed you up? What was it about him?
He kept throwing the ball in my hands. He just kept sinking it on my hands and wouldn't do anything differently, and just kept burying it on the inside part of the plate. And I just could not get the head of the bat out on him. And he may not even know that he was, in my mind, the toughest pitcher that I faced, but he was pretty tough on me.
Yeah.
Well, and just speaking of the old, like the way it was to pitch back then, y'all pitched inside more, and there was more plunkings than now.
Oh yeah.
What was that philosophy like for y'all? I mean, you weren't trying to hurt anybody, but you were just trying to claim the inside of that plate, right?
Yeah. I didn't want anybody hurt when we were going to do it. We were basically protecting our own hitters. If one of our own hitters got hit, then and it started off with Billy Martin. Billy Martin was one of the worst for hitting the other team. And I would just really tell the pitcher, I said, just put it in his ribs. Don't throw it above the weight, above his his neck. Don't throw it at his head. Just try to put it, in some meaty part of his body. And because when I was in the minor leagues, I hit fifth behind a guy that hit a bunch of home runs. And, back then, if a guy hit a home run, the next guy would get hit.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It was just notorious, and it was a given. And so Tom Robson was his name, and he hit like 40 home runs that season in Double-A ball, and I got plucked all the time. So I got to the big leagues. I didn't like the plucking idea. I'm thinking like, I didn't hit it, he hit it.
Yeah, hit the guy that hit it.
Don't hit the guy that hit the thing.
Yeah. You're just an innocent bystander.
Yeah, I mean, darn it. I mean, stop. I mean, gosh, I didn't do anything to hurt you.
Oh, goodness.
That's funny.
Okay, so you've caught a bunch of Hall of Famers. We've talked a little bit about Nolan. So who had the best stuff that you've caught? Like Hall of Famer or not? Like your hardest pitcher was someone a lot of us hadn't heard of. Who was the guy that you caught that you thought had the best stuff?
Well, the best pitcher that I caught, I think, is Ferguson Jenkins. Fergie had amazing control. He had 3 pitches he could get over for strikes, and he could throw them at any location at any time. And he had great command of it. He was easy to work with. He was just an amazing pitcher. Nolan had a great fastball curveball combination. Bert Blyleven had a great fastball curveball combination. Jim Bibby threw hard. Probably the best fastball I caught was Brett Saberhagen with Kansas
really?
City.
Okay.
Well, it was kind of an accelerator. It would give the impression that it would kind of jump a little bit, and at the end, and guys would be constantly behind it, and it would be the 5th inning before they could actually try to time it a little bit, and then we started throwing his changeup more consistently, and it would get him off of the fastball again. So, but Don Sutton had a really good breaking pitch. He had a really good sandpaper ball. He threw it. He had a sandpaper on his finger, and he would use it.
We're learning all the tricks now.
He would use it to cut to abrase the ball a little bit, and so it was a very effective pitch.
Was there anybody that you were just like, if you don't catch it right in that pocket, it can hurt? Is there anybody that just like you just wanted to take your glove off and shake your hand, but you tried to act like it didn't hurt? Or
well, yeah, that's a good question. Kevin Brown was through what they call a heavy ball, and it hurt to catch it. I had just had shoulder surgery to my left shoulder, my catching side, the year that the off season of the next year I caught him. And when his pitches came in, it would really hurt. It would really hurt my shoulder, and it took a year before my shoulder really gained its strength back. Wow. But I had to play for a year with a shoulder that occasionally hurt, especially when catching Kevin Brown because of that heavy pitch that he threw. Yeah. But generally, you learn to catch the ball in the same spot all the time, unless you're catching Charlie Huff, and then you don't really catch a knuckleballer. You kind of wrestle the ball to the ground and pick it up and then throw it back. So,
it's like wrestling a calf or something.
You just gotta wrestle it down and hopefully it stays close to you, and then you throw it back.
That's hilarious.
Here, just a second.
So, what are your most memorable, like, as a Texas Ranger? I mean, we're big Ranger fans. We've been here for quite some time. What are your most like memorable, things as a Texas Ranger that you can recall?
Well, my first game as a Texas Ranger was really the most memorable one, and that was the one hitter by Fergie. We were playing the Oakland A's, and the A's in '74 would be the world champions for the 3rd year in a row. They won 72, 3, and 4, and we're opening up against Oakland, and Fergie's pitching. It's my first major league game, and I'm kind of numb. I lost the feel of the ball. I couldn't. Normally, every player will feel the ball. You can kind of rub your fingers together, and you feel the sense of the ball. And I lost my sense of the feel. I was so nervous, and but Fergie ended up throwing a one hitter. I got a couple of hits and threw a guy out. And so that was, and I had grown up watching Fergie pitch for the Cubs as a kid. I saw him throw a lot of games in Wrigley Field. And so to catch him my first major league game, that was memorable. And then 10-cent Bear Night. 10-cent Bear Night in Cleveland was, I mean, it was a madhouse. Normally Cleveland would have 6,000 to 7,000 people at the game, and that night they had, I think, 30 or 35,000, but they didn't increase their security, and so they had people coming out on the field every inning. In between every inning, there were security police running down the guys, trying to run down
goodness,
people that had come on the field. I was in the on deck circle in the sixth inning, and I just happened to be, I was kind of paranoid, and I had to be looking around. I saw the corner of my eye, something launched in my direction, and someone had threw a bottle from the upper deck, landed about 6 feet away.
Oh man!
And then when the fight broke out in the ninth inning, it was a game that we were going to lose. And when the game broke out, when the guy came out of the stands and started messing with Jeff Burles, our team took off to the outfield. And it was a mess out there. And fortunately, the Cleveland Indian players came to our rescue, and they really helped us get back to the dugout, because the whole team was in right field, because that's where the commotion started. But it was a wild party.
Goodness. One of the many reasons they don't allow glass in stadiums anymore, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
That is absolutely crazy.
It is. It really was.
So in 85, you were unfortunately traded to Kansas City for us as fans, not for you, because you go to a team that ends up winning the World Series that year. So take us through what the emotions. I mean, you've worked so hard for so long in a sport. What's it like to win everything?
Well, I'll take you through the day of the seventh game of the World Series. We were down 3-1 and came back to tie it in the sixth game, and then in the seventh game, I was at home, and you know, when you're sitting going, oh my gosh, this is what I've always wanted to be a part of, is a seventh game of the World Series and win it. And I can remember sitting in grade school, thinking about playing in the World Series someday. And so here the opportunity to play is coming up, and I was probably the most jittery of my entire career during the day of the seventh game. And so Jen and I we had a lot of family at the house. So Jen and I took the kids, and we went to one of the parks in Kansas City and try to relax a little bit. And she had said to me, Jim, where are you? I was kind of in my head, and I wasn't paying much attention. And I said, I think this game is going to be a blowout, but I don't know who's going to win. But I have a sense it's going to be a blowout game. And then we got to the seventh game. Brett Saberhagen was pitching, who had been our marquee pitcher all year. And after the first inning, I told Dick Hauser, I said, if we score one run tonight, we'll win this ball game. Dick Hauser, our manager. And that's how good Brett was that night, starting off. And then by the 11th inning, the fifth inning, we were up 11-0.
You're right about the blowout.
And that's the way the game would end. It would end 11-0. And the last 4 innings was probably the most fun 4 innings that I've ever played in a major league game. And just the victory was ours. The win is in our corner, and they weren't going to take the game away from us. And we were going up into the locker room watching the network set up for the post game celebration, and and we were kind of giggling and laughing, and then come back into the dugout and be serious again, so it was an amazing thing to experience, and to win it all was terrific.
Yeah, that's
well,
so
it's
cool.
so hard just in any sport, but I mean, in you as a catcher, it's hard. It's hard work every day, and to put that much work in and know that you won. And what's cool is you had that 4 innings to just kind of enjoy the whole thing. It wasn't like a nail biter where you didn't know till the end. Like y'all could kind of
Right.
savor like all this work we had done to get there.
It was very unique for a championship game, because I'm not sure there's ever been a victory that size for a seventh game. There may have been, but I haven't in recent history. I don't remember like that. But and when they're close, it's just a nail biter. But I was having these visions of playing Little League baseball, and I was kind of thinking back through my career, and you start thinking about things that you normally don't think about because of the lead, and so it was to savor that, to enjoy it was really cool.
That's cool.
Okay, on a side note, I have to ask you about someone. Rebecca's favorite player as a kid was George Brett. So what's your overall scattering report on George?
I grew up in Kansas. And that's the first actually major league game I went to. So yeah.
He's the best hitter that I've ever played with. He in 1985, in the year we won the World Series, he hit 400 for 2 months.
I remember that.
And it's a time I'll never forget, because when you think about it, he hit in the order of the lineup that got up 4 or 5 times a game. If you were scoring some runs that game, you probably got up 5 times, which means you got 2 hits. You're getting 2 hits a game for 2 months. And if he didn't get a hit one game, then he would get 4 the next night. So, but he hit 400. And when I played against him, I used to try to figure out different ways of getting guys out, and I tried to talk to him. Well, it didn't even bother him. In fact, we actually had an umpire tell us to shut up one time. We were talking as the pitch was coming in, and he's facing the hitter talking. I mean, the pitcher talking, and I'm trying to catch it, and we're talking, and nothing really rattled him. He was the type of hitter that if you needed the inning to start off with a double, he could either get a single and steal the base, or he'd hit a double. He could hit a home run. He could drive in a run from third base with less than 2 outs. He could get the runner over to third if you needed it. So he was always a great situational hitter too. So that's the report on him, Rebecca.
That's great. We actually got married on a softball field. You probably don't know this, Jim.
Oh,
we got married at home plate at Randall Mill Park in North Arlington.
Wow.
Yeah, on the green fields at the time. It was the green.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we still play co-ed together on Friday nights. Occasionally I catch. Most of the time I play first, but I love chatting with the batters. That's like my favorite thing.
Yeah.
That's like that's like where you get to like meet all of them. We just have all this awesome fun conversation. You're either going to build some like bonds, or you're going to make some enemies, or whatever it's going to be. It's just going to be a fun time back there. So I always like catching. Yeah, it was a workout. It is a straight workout, but
it is tough, especially back when we didn't have a closed roof like we do today. It was hot. It was hot in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And, but it is a fun position. You get to see the whole field. You get to get up close against the batters. And I remember the first time Hank Aaron came to the plate, and I was caught between trying to get him out and asking for an autograph. So it was not an easy. It's not an easy position, but it's a very fulfilling position.
Yeah, right.
Do you remember if he got a hit or not?
I don't even remember.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Did you talk a lot to other batters, or did you just pick your times when you did?
I did. I especially the guys that were once teammates.
Yeah,
I would talk to, and then I try to mess with some of the guys, and when I mean mess, I would get a handful of dirt, and right when the pitch is getting ready to come in, I would throw the dirt on their feet. And so
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah.
Try that on Friday.
they didn't appreciate that very much. They didn't like
Hopefully it's not 10-cent beer night at the softball.
That's
field. I'm
right.
gonna have trouble.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm going to try that on our next co-ed game. Okay, so in the 2000s, you come back to Texas. You're now on the senior executive team, and the Rangers finally get to go to the World Series in 2010, 2011. What was it like being on that side of the coin? You're not now on the field. You're in a different role, but your team's finally there.
I was actually more nervous.
Well,
I was
it's like
actually
you can't
more
do anything
nervous.
about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You just have to sit there, and there was a good feel that we had the momentum and we had the club to do it, but it was really more nerve-wracking to be in that position. And as Scott was saying, you are kind of out of having anything to do with the game, and so it's really nerve-wracking. And then the 11th in 11, the game that we had in the bag twice,
Yeah, I know.
and then let it get by. That was awful.
Yeah, it was.
Awful.
It was
Oh,
awful.
so close.
Scott
So
doesn't,
close.
Scott doesn't like to talk about it. Are you, when you're watching like the Rangers, when you're in when you're now in a different role, are you find yourself being like watching the catcher, thinking of things you would have done different or things he should do different? Are you just trying to stay with the whole team watching that? Are you kind of super highly focused on the catcher?
You mean today?
No, like,
Back
when
then,
you were, yeah.
Back then, no. I was
today.
actually I actually got on Twitter in 10, and someone told me to get on Twitter, and I started that back in 10, and I would start making predictions. I would tweet a prediction or something, and it would come true, and people would go nuts. And, I can remember calling a home run for Josh Hamilton one time and calling a home run for Nelson Cruz. And so it was, it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, so you're known as the Iron Man at catcher. I'm going to give people some stats here.
Yeah.
In your 10 years with the Rangers, you averaged 140 games this season, and you still hold the record, the American League record for games caught in a season, 155. And you coined the phrase, good things happen when you keep showing up. So what was the benefit of just having that work ethic?
Well, my dad was amazing. We didn't have a lot growing up. He was a letter carrier, and then he drove the school bus. But he, being a mailman, there were times when there would be 8 or 12 inches of snow on the ground, and he would actually walk to work. He was a guy that was at work. He was responsible and dedicated. When he retired from the Postal Service, he had over 14 months of sick leave built up from all the years. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. You can't even do that. You can't even do that today.
You can't. They won't.
And they won't let you build up days. But
Right.
he had a fear of not being able to work and not provide for the family, and so he had a strong work ethic, and I think I picked up on that. There were times where I didn't feel good, but you play. There are times where you're actually hurting and you play, and sometimes you're playing with injuries and you continue to play, and so unfortunately, I never was on the disabled list until my 11th year in the big leagues. When I left and went to Milwaukee, I hurt my back and was on the disabled list, really the only time in my career. And so it was, you just learn to get after it. And the whole concept of showing up is not passive. Basically, I mean, if someone keeps showing up, you outstay most of your competitors, because most people don't hang around and show up. They eventually stop. But but showing up is a positive term for being all in.
Yeah, for sure. And your generation and your dad's generation, y'all just have a different kind of grit than some of the future generations.
Yeah, it is. It's true, because when I was in the front office, I would go down to the locker room during the game, before the game, and into the training room, because I knew the trainers, and would sit in there and kind of shoot the bull, and there would be players that would come in. I remember one player coming in one time saying that his neck was hurting because he slept wrong on it, and he was trying to take himself out of the lineup. And I'm thinking, like, this is this is really too much. Your neck is got a little kink in it, then go get it out. I mean, put some heat on it.
You'd probably get it out if you play.
Yeah, if you played.
Yeah.
So it was there's a likelihood, and not only but the agents are actually got into the mix. That they're calling the people and telling that his player can't play that night.
Oh wow.
Being of that nature. So the agents have gotten involved.
Yeah.
In the process. A player doesn't even feel like he can actually come in and tell somebody that he can't play that night. So it's a different ball game.
That translates to my husband and I have, but this last season, my son and I coached a little league team together, and the catcher would go down. He'd get, they're 12U. The catcher would go down, and they all think I'm the one that should go out there and talk to them because I'm a female and maybe a little more nurturing, which is very far from
It's the total opposite with
it's
you.
the exact opposite.
Yeah.
I walk out there, I'm like, can you catch or not? Like, do I need to put someone else in? Are you bleed? I raised 3 boys. I'm not dealing with you. Either catch or get off the field. I got other things to do here. And I turn around, I look at the other coaches. I'm like, I don't know why y'all send me. I'm not good out here. I'm terrible at this. But then, the role of the manager is the role of the parents in Little League, because they're the ones who say, my kid has a hangnail and can't play. So it's just this generation we've
watching players now. Who do you see as like is there somebody that stands out, like the old school grinder kind of guy that you see now? Anybody like that?
Nothing. No one comes to mind right away. In terms of the catchers, the guy in Molina in St. Louis is a pretty good player, has been for a number of years. And we had Ripken for a long time who took it out there every night and played no matter what. But I really don't watch that much baseball anymore. I don't watch it on TV. I go to the game a couple of times a year. I do watch box scores. I've always from very little, I've always waited for the newspaper to come. So, and this is before games were on TV, obviously. And so you had to get the newspaper to find out what was going on. And that's where I get my information. Well, I have an app on my phone now, and I basically go through and look at box scores and see what guys are doing. But I do that more than anything. It's not that I'm disconnected. It's not that I'm disconnected from baseball. I just don't watch as much of it anymore.
You're right. Yeah.
Okay, that is so funny, because when I was a kid, I loved opening the box scores, and I would find my favorite players. It's before the web and all that. And I would go through and just see how all my favorite players did the night before. So I did that same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to, and then kind of track what they're hitting. I'm a tracker, so I track what they're hitting, and I would kind of follow that and see what they're doing. I looked up how many home runs Pujols has, because I was watching the Sports Center today, and they were talking about him. Well, he's got 6 more to go to get to, I think, 600. I think that's what it is. I think
he's 700, isn't he?
700.
Yeah, 700.
6 more to go to get to 700. He's got a month to do it, and we'll see if he does. But so I kind of track certain things. Garcia had a hitting streak going for the Rangers here for a while, so I was kind of watching that and following that, and so I'll do those little things. But watching a game, I took the family out the other day, and we stayed 3 innings. before I asked anybody if they were ready to go.
That's hilarious.
And so anyway, but and it's different, and it helps when you know somebody. I've known players for years until recently, and actually knew them. And so when you know them, there's a tendency to root for them. I still follow Nelson Cruz, and when you know the guys, they're easier to follow. And I don't know anybody on the Ranger Club. I mean, I don't.
Right.
It's been a total turnover. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
It really has been.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard of this guy that is playing 162 games of catch. Have you heard of this guy?
No.
He's gone around the last year and played 162 games of catch with different people. He started with his daughter and he wanted to end it with his dad, but somewhere along the way he sent a message he's a Yankees fan.
We forgive him.
Yeah. He lives in Philly, I think. He sent a message to Mets and Yankees, and they ended up letting him come out his 163rd game of catch. He added one because Aaron Judge wanted to play with him. So anyways, he kind of sparked us to have a conversation of like, if you could play catch with 5 people and maybe in that process tell them like what they've meant to you and how they've impacted you, who would they be? So he lists his 5, I list my 5, and we're in the process of checking off our list, having a good game of catch with someone. That's just a fun way to be like, here's how you've impacted my life, and I wanted you to know that. And then we're both having them sign our baseball. So I'll have all 5 of them.
That's cool.
Isn't that a fun thing?
That is a fun thing. I had no idea that there was a guy, but it makes sense though that it'd be somebody on the East Coast because New York, Philly, all the people on the East Coast, they're just huge fans.
Yeah,
and it would make sense that somebody from that area would do that. And
yeah.
so I guess they every day he would play catch with somebody for.
Yeah, like he started with his daughter, I think, and then he had a few people in mind, and he did relatives. Part of it was just right after COVID, and he wanted to reconnect with people without them. It's a way to social distance and still get together.
Who was the old pitcher he had to send a snail mail to?
Oh yeah, the old Phillies Yankees pitcher. I can't remember his name right now.
Yeah,
Rivera?
No, it was he actually caught with Berra's grandkids, Yogi Berra's grandkids.
Okay.
Yeah, they were on there. Yeah.
Oh wow!
I don't remember.
But this pitcher's 96 years old now, and he threw with
he's
it.
like the 5th oldest.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, yeah, such a fun thing to do. So we don't live too far from you. Don't be surprised if we show up for a game of catch.
Well, there's nothing like playing catch. I've always loved to play catch. And such a easy, fun thing to do.
It really is. And he made a point of asking, like, what's your favorite ballpark food? And his whole goal was to get to know the other person. We had a different goal in mind for ours, but there's always good things happen when you just play catch.
Yeah.
Go up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that you apparently have found there's no tumbleweed in Texas, or there is, it's just not really around the Metroplex. What does the DFW community mean to you and the Texas Rangers? I mean, now you're a Texas guy.
Well, the fans were always great to me. I was just it was God had a calling in me in getting me to Texas, and the route that I took to get here was not a normal route. And so many things could have happened where I never would have been here at all. And but this was the place that I was supposed to be, the place I played. The fans were terrific. I've raised all of our kids have been raised and gone to school here in Texas. We still live here, and this is home. So it's obviously meant a lot to us to make this home and stay here, and we love Texas. I mean, something you probably didn't know, the branding of Texas, I actually had something to do with. When Nolan became president, we worked together in the front office for 6 years. And when he was here, I said, Nolan, we should do something with Texas because you represent Texas. Mm-hmm. And Texas is we're the only ones baseball team in the state of Texas that has Texas in it. Because up until then, everything was Rangers most of the time.
Oh
So
yeah.
we started marketing Texas. So Nolan took it. He liked it. He took it to MLB, and they liked it. And so we started using a lot more Texas uniforms. And then they started having Texas apparel, and it kind of exploded. And so that was something that I was able to do when I was in the front office.
Yeah, that's so neat. That's great.
And all Texans are proud to be Texans.
That's right.
Even if you're somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, is there another place to live? Come on.
No, there's
For
not.
real. That's the truth.
There's not. Well, we are just so thankful that you took time out of your Labor Day weekend to have a little chat with us. And I know that you had to mark out time on your calendar, so we appreciate it, spending time with Hardy Party 5.5. And like I said, don't be surprised if we show up for a game of catch sometime.
Yeah. Well, Becca and Scott, I enjoyed a lot. I appreciate you all, and it was fun. And come on by.
Yeah, we will. Okay. Or maybe you should come play co-ed softball with us. I don't know if you can hit a lob pitch. Have you ever tried to hit a lob pitch?
It's not easy. I've tried it.
You gotta like count to 10. Like
yeah, and it goes way up in the air, and you got to try to time it as it comes down and through.
That's right. It's not easy.
It is not easy. But I don't play anymore. I don't squat, and I don't play.
I don't think he's going to do it.
He's not going to do what?
He's not going to sub on our co-ed team.
I don't think so. I think his playing days are behind him.
Well, but what if we just had him at another position, or even just hitting, and then maybe had a runner for him? I mean, that's what I just assume do.
I don't know. There's not many people like a Michael Jordan or a Tom Brady that come back. You know what I mean? Like they put so much work, sweat, and tears into the stuff that.
But when you say come back for them, you're talking about to like something importantly hard and major. This is a fun time on a Monday night for 1 hour. It's really hot and sweaty in Texas, but it is a fun time.
I know. We'll have to talk to his people, and we'll have to get back to
think about it. If we're in need of a player,
I would say the chances are slim.
Oh, you're probably right.
But we can work on that.
Yeah. Well, his interview was super awesome.
He's, like I said, it's like talking to a good friend. It's sitting down, like you're sitting at the game and you're talking to a friend while the game's going on.
I totally love watching you geek out on statistics.
I know. And what's amazing about, and I meant to mention to him is when you, and even normal guys will remember what happened in a game.
Did you just call yourself not normal?
No, I'm normal.
You're normal.
I motion to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like people that aren't professional athletes.
Mm-hmm.
When we have, I do it less now than I used to, but when I was younger, I remember everything that happened in 6 games ago. But it's so amazing with professional players, and I think it's one reason they're so good, is he was remembering stuff from 40 or 50 years ago, and he was like, you could see in his eyes that he was back in that play in that game. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, if you look at LeBron or Tom Brady and just the guys like Jim that make it to the top level, they just have a memory and a feel for the game that, like, normal people don't have.
Yeah. And
it's just so cool for him to go back to that Ferguson-Jenkins game. It's like, oh, this is what he was pitching.
Yeah.
And the Burt Blyleven game, which is in 1977. Mm-hmm. He's like, we stuck with curveballs because it was working. And it's so fun to see. You could see in his eyes he was going back to that.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to see that.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great interview.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we love the Rangers we are diehard Ranger fans, no matter what happens.
No matter what happens.
And one day that's going to pay off, Rebecca.
You sure?
I think so.
All right. Well, we hope so.
I think there's a better chance of the Rangers going to the World Series again and winning than Jim Sundberg playing on our softball team.
I think you're probably right.
I think so.
That was a knife to the heart, babe.
All right, Megan. Just trying to be real.
Okay. Well, we hope you enjoyed this interview with Jim Sundberg. He's such a great guy. Makes you proud to be a Texan.
That's right.
And a baseball fan. Hardy Party 5.5, over and out.
Go Rangers!